Hi, I am Brady. I play guitar and shouting in the band Conjurer, and we are putting out our album Unself on the 24th of October 2025. This is our third record, and it is, I think, a bit of a departure from everything we've done before. Maybe not stylistically so much as in the approach and in the resulting album. I think we've made an album that is head and shoulders above anything we've done before, and I hope people give it a go and get into it.
Fantastic. Brady, thanks for joining us tonight. Good to see your smiling face again.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's genuinely a pleasure to chat to people about this album.
No worries at all, bro. So, as you say, Conjurer are set to release your third studio album, Unself, on October 24th. So, how are you feeling about it? You just sort of summed it up pretty well then, but how are you feeling? You confident?
Yeah, I think it's funny because with all of our previous releases, we've not really cared about the reception. Like it has been a very specific point to be like, we make this music for the four of us, we put it out there, and if people like it, that is wonderful. And if they don't, then that's also fine. You know, we can't control that. However, on this album, I feel like we've put so much more of ourselves into it than ever before. It feels so much more personal. It feels so much more emotionally vulnerable that while, yes, if people don't like it, whatever, that's not something I can control. But I do really hope that people connect with it in the way that I have. You know, I love this album. It really means a lot to me, and I hope that it kind of scratches that itch for at least some of the people that listen to it.
At least some of them. So, can you dive into it a bit deeper from a musical point of view and tell us what you're going for this time around?
Hmm. So I think after Pathos and the circumstances around it were so unique, we recorded in the pandemic in our rehearsal space in Northampton where we had been, for a couple of years at that point, with exclusively our own equipment and our own front of house engineer at the time tracked everything. Like we did not have access to anything more than that. So we didn't even get to play some of those songs in a room together before recording them on the album. So for me, this album is kind of a direct reaction to that. We wanted everything to feel low pressure. Again, we recorded that album in a week and a half, and we were recording up until 2 a.m. on the final day of studio, just get it like pushing to get it over the line. So we were like, we don't want any of that on this record. So we took a full month to go into the studio, and we went in with um not fully complete ideas so that we could be in the room and work together and be collaborative. And Pathos was a very dense, complex, layered album that didn't ever really let up. It was layers upon layers, and it was claustrophobic. And we wanted this record to feel organic and wanted it to have a real tangible sense of space. And so, um, yeah, doing a couple of weeks of pre-production, um, of us getting in the room and playing the songs, and Joe, the producer, being there and kind of being a part of that from jump was so important. And it really got us to the point where the songs felt good to play and felt emotionally resonant before we had even got into the studio. So yeah, I think that it's a record that is so much tied to emotion and tied to the process and is like a product of the process that went into to making it. So yeah, I hope that when you're listening to it, you can hear and feel that it sounds and feels different, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought up this space too, mate, because there's a quote in the press release, and after listening to the album myself, you can hear where this comes into it. But the press release says that you've leaned into utilizing space, gifting the listener a little breathing room, which serves to make the heavy elements feel all the more intense. So basically, that just means that sometimes it's what you leave out with music, not what you put in. But can you elaborate on that concept for us a bit more for people who don't quite understand?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like why, for the most part, when you dig into like a specific genre like death metal, the bands that I'm the biggest fan of are the ones that sit on the fringes and don't just give you 10 brutal death metal tracks in a row, or grindcore that don't just give you that intense, 20 minutes of brutality. Because for me, after the first couple of tracks, after the initial hit of adrenaline from that sound has worn off, it kind of dips. And I feel like you to really make effective, impactful music, you need the ebbs and flows, you need the peaks and troughs. That kind of um journey that you take the listener on is something that I really appreciate in music. So when people, say that we're a doom band, then you point them to the start of the Searing Glow. Or if people say that we're a death metal band, you point them to Foreclosure, or whatever it is. Like, there is the antithesis of that is also on the record, and it's something that we are really conscious of, not just doing the same thing, and not just being more of a multi-tool than a hammer. I think is the way of looking at it, and just knowing that style and genre and trope, all of these things are tools that you have at your disposal. And I think we were trying to craft, and it's a good metaphor, we were trying to craft the perfect machine on the last record, whereas now we're trying to craft something that allows us to express the emotion behind how we're feeling. And I think that is the biggest shift. It is like a pointed attempt to convey emotion as opposed to a pointed attempt to write perfect songs.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Now, the album opens with the title track "Unself," and it's so effective, bro. Like, it starts life as a beautifully orchestrated piece of acoustic music, and then it explodes in a wall of rage towards the end. Like, what was the thought process behind opening with that? Because it threw a curveball straight up.
Yeah, for sure. I love the idea that there will be a number of people that put this record on and for about 30 seconds are like, this must be the wrong album. Like, there's no way. Love that. I love that when a band surprises you right out the gate with what they're about. But this was an idea that kind of came pretty much fully formed to Danny, and they had talked for quite a while about this intro idea that they had, and they actually tabbed it up. So I got a guitar profile that was, you know, a minute and a half of acoustic guitar strumming and then noise. And I was like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. They were like, yeah, there'll be vocals. And I'm like, imagining Danny screaming over that acoustic guitar. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so during the pre-production, we were like, we'll track all the parts. And then I said, Danny, you've just got to go in there and do the vocals. Like, show us what this is. Like, because I just still don't get it. So, they went in, and the vocal take that they did in that pre-production session is, I think, pretty much the vocal take we used on the album. And it was like an instant light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, I get it, this is amazing. Like, it was one of those, you hear something and you're like, well, there's no possible way this doesn't open the album now. And yeah, I love something that's challenging, and something that is different, and something that does grab your attention, but in a completely different way to a blast beat and some tremolo guitars.
I like the way you sort of you had the crossover, I guess, between the acoustic and all out warfare. Like it's you've just got like a buzz. It starts softly and then it just gets louder and louder until
Mm.
chaos comes. Like how many different things did you trial before settling on that to be the right transition?
I think that this was from Jump, the having the feedback from the guitars fade in slowly. That was there in Danny's tab from Jump. That was how they imagined it. But getting the kind of eerie rumble. We work with Tom Ragsdale, who makes music under the name Sulk Rooms, and is also the kind of electronic part of Pine, the band that Joe plays in. He came into the studio for a day and played some piano for us and brought all of his gizmos. I don't know what the stuff that he uses is, but we were like, we need some ominous noises, we need some rumble, we need some drones, and he kind of crafted those parts with us in front of us, and we tracked them all. So that kind of like low end rumble, we've just been calling it the rumble,
Right.
was something that Tom brought to the table, and we were like, yes, that is the unsettling feeling that we want this to create, and it just really complemented what was going on. So I think this record has been very collaborative. We've had, opened ourselves up to other people coming in and lending their expertise and advising and just kind of being a part of the process more than ever before, and it feels great to create something together.
Yeah, And then on the flip side, bro, like the album closes out with "The World Is Not My Home," which is an adaptation of a
Mhm.
century-old gospel song. Like when I was reading
Mhm.
through that, it sounded like a really strange choice, and then I put the song on, and it's like, fuck me, it just gets you between the eyes, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was another one, those like clean vocals at the end of that track. um Danny, by the end of studio, was like belting that out note for note. It sounded, perfect. And one of the very last things during the mixing, I was like, can we just go back to one of the pre-production takes, because there was something about the emotion in their voice that would get me to well up every single time. And I was like, I'm not getting that from this perfect take. And we dropped, that first take back in there, and I was like, well, that's the one. Like the delivery in that track sells everything for me, and the taking this gospel song that was originally, about the idea that this world is not my home, and that's fine because I'm going to heaven and that's my real home, and it was like a positive message as opposed to this world is not my home because it is so fucked, and also I am trapped here. Being really the way that we are looking at this, and kind of in the the folk tradition, taking that song, reinterpreting it, kind of changing the lyrics. I'm just so thrilled that we get to do that and to kind of bookend this album with this song that sums up the themes of the record. Is Yeah, it's so exciting, and it is so thematically spot on to what we're trying to do. Like I could not be happier with the way we started and ended the record.
Yeah, but as a metal band though, bro, like what's your thought process there? Like what goes through your head? Like if someone said, yeah, start with an acoustic song and finish with a gospel song, it's like it just doesn't sound right, you know? Like what's the thought process behind actually putting that in place with your music?
I think as much as we make heavy music, I don't think there's ever been a point where we've thought of ourselves as an out and out metal band. Like we definitely, when we started, there were ideas that we put to the side because we're like, oh, that's not heavy enough, or that's not this, or that's not, whatever. Whereas now, if someone's passionate about an idea, it doesn't really matter what it sounds like. If it feels authentic and if it is like the right I guess vibe is the only word I can use, but if it's the right vibe for what we're creating, no one is turning around and saying that's not heavy enough. That's not metal enough. Like ideas like Let Us Live for, it's a single on the record. For the most part, it's pretty much just chords all the way through. Like you could remove the electric guitars and play that on an acoustic comfortably. It's that kind of vibe. So, um, I think what this band is always evolving, and that is something that keeps us excited about it and keeps it fresh and not really knowing what the next record is going to be or what the next song is going to sound like until we're in it is what keeps the magic alive. I think the second we started repeating ourselves or limiting ourselves or trying to make something quote unquote more metal or more anything, and we've lost the plot by that point, and we're gonna get bored and we're gonna not feel enthused. So, yeah, I think anyone that has expectations or assumptions about what this band is already way off the mark.
And I'd agree with that completely. Now, Conjurer completed a successful tour of Australia in 2024, and I heard a little whisper that you guys are already planning to possibly come back next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're working on it. I mean, we had such a good time. We're lucky enough that we're at the point where we pretty much have a good time everywhere we go. But Australia felt so special. It is so far away, and yet, obviously, through historically, so tied to the UK and culturally, so much similarity. Like it feels like such a privilege to go out there and play our music to these people that I think really get what we're doing on like an instinctual level. So of course we're trying to come back as soon as possible. I think it's probably towards the end of next year if we can make it happen. But yeah, it would be our absolute privilege to get to come back and play some of these new songs for you guys.
Fantastic. Now, before we go, bro, I'm not sure if I was doing this last time I spoke to you, but I've got a new segment I've started called Photo Bombs. So I've trolled through your social media before we've had a chat, and I've come up with a few photos I want to know a little bit more about. So the first
Okay.
one, I believe, was actually taken on your last visit to Australia.
Yeah. That is us and Connery the koala at Lone Pine. Um, I wanted it to feel like a high school prom photo, and only me and Noah really committed to that vibe. So yeah, there's the four of us, and then Marius, our front of house engineer. Uh, that was such a lovely time. Like I appreciate you taking us to that event, but it's like the traditional thing. Like every band across the world go. You don't tour Australia for anything other than getting the koala photo. That's what
Well,
it's really all about. And yeah, to do that on day one was fucking awesome.
I'm glad we could help out. Now, the second one's not quite so straightforward. It's oops, what have I done? Okay, so it's I want to know like where was this taken and what's the go with the shirts?
So this was taken at Arctangent Festival in Bristol in the UK. Um, Backstage just before we played the last Kirsty's Metal Hand set. So this was in fact no, this was two sets ago. So God, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2022. Um, but we had these Kirsty's Metal Hands is influenced a little bit by Baroness, like big fans of the band, and we have this ongoing joke that we are a Baroness tribute band or that we are trying to take the mantle of Baroness. So I was like, well, why don't we do a I can't believe it's not butter rip shirt that is I can't believe it's not Baroness. And it has become a bit of a running joke with this band too. It's us and Pine. So the first time we did it, we wore Pine shirts, they wore Conjurer shirts. And since we started making merch, then it's just, well, you've got to wear your own merch because it's the most uh unself-aware thing you can do. So yeah, we went out there and we ripped it in our own t-shirts, and that is our ex-drummer Jan with the banjo um on the far left of the photo, who played the banjo part, which is in the new Kirsty's Metal Hands song that we have not finished recording yet, and then our good friend Lily Waite in the middle, who played the automaton to introduce one of the tracks. So yeah, it was I mean, it's very silly, but we have a lot of fun.
Damn straight you do, brother. All right, Brady. Well, thanks for your time, bro. The album Unself is out October 24th. And like I say, I had a privilege of having a sneak listen, and it's an absolute ball terror, bro. So congratulations, and hopefully we see you next year.
Thank you so much. And I have to add as well, we set up a store in Australia with imprint merch. So if anyone wants to get some merch or pre-order the album on vinyl and CD, you do not have to import it from the UK or the US and pay all those charges. You can get it in good old-fashioned Australia, direct from them.